Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Loren Christie. I'm the Managing Director of the Best Cities Global Alliance. And we're really happy that everyone came. This is our second version of this community cafe. We did one earlier today. For me, that would have been in the middle of the night because I'm in Toronto. But we did one that had about 20 folks show up. So we're really excited about the interest that's being shown in this year's Incredible Impacts program. Um, I'm just going to take a quick session moment before I get into the session overview, just to let our panelists introduce themselves. So I'm going to hand it over to Dermot with ICCA to, well, actually, we'll go to our two special guests first, Dermot, and then we'll end it with you so you can talk a little bit about ICCA. But Gayle, why don't you introduce yourself to the team?
Hi everybody. My name's Gayle McGuinn and I am Head of Association Sales at the Edinburgh International Conference Centre. And today I'm going to talk about the International Papillomavirus Conference, which we hosted at the ICCA back in November 2024, and we won the Seed Fund grant in 2023.
Great. Thanks, Gayle. And Elegast.
Yes, good afternoon, good evening, where you are. I'm Elegast from the European Academy of Childhood Onset Disabilities, and I'm joining here you all to then give a kind of little bit of more information about the award we won last year in October, the Impact Creation Award. So yeah, happy to be here.
Great. Thanks, Elegast. And now, Dermot, now you can go.
Thank you. So I'm Dermot from the International Congress and Convention Association, ICCA. I'm head of association engagement. And Loren, I'm going to talk about us rather than just ICCA because, back in 2016, ICCA and Best Cities first had this kind of discussion about doing something to recognize associations that were like leaving long-lasting impacts in their destinations through their meetings. And that resulted in the Best Cities Global Alliance ICCA Incredible Impacts Program in 2017. And I think we've had over 200 submissions since then. And it's all really about partnership. I think not just starting with us as partners, but I think also, partnerships between associations and destinations and venues, PCOs, and of course, associations and their engagement with diverse communities to create impact. So that's really important. We're really enthusiastic about getting associations to enter, but also destinations, venues, PCOs to nominate associations because we know there's many great impact projects out there and we really want to give them a platform.
My name is Nigel Brown. I'm the Director of Marketing and Partnerships at Best Cities Global Alliance based in Singapore. And it's been a privilege to be able to be involved with the Incredible Impacts program since the very start back in 2017.
Hello all, my name is Ignacio de Regibus. I'm the Executive Director of the International Water Resources Association. So very happy to join you all.
Hi, I'm Anouk. I'm the Director of Conference and Events at ICCA. ICCA is the International Cartilage Regeneration and Joint Preservation Society. We have around 1,000 members worldwide, and we won the seed grant last year. Very happy to be with you.
So today's session is really, it's not a long session, but it really depends on how many questions you may have. But basically what we're going to do is we're just going to cover what is the Incredible Impacts program. We're going to talk about success stories. Thank you to Gayle and Elegast for joining us. Dermot and I will go over a few tips and tricks for crafting a winning entry, and then also go over the kind of the process and timeline. And then we'll have time for questions at the end, so you can ask anything you want of ourselves on the panel. And if anyone else is on the call, and I know there's a few of you that have been involved in some submissions before, feel free to chime in as well. This is a group thing, as it goes with Legacy and Impact. We're all in this together, and so it doesn't matter where we're from or what we're doing. We're all working to make a positive impact. So. Dermot, why don't we hand it over to you to just talk about what the actual program is about?
Okay, great. Thank you. So maybe just to start, the criteria for both of these awards, these grants. I mean, the criteria is on the Incredible Impacts website, but I can briefly summarize. It's basically an international association whose meetings generally fits the following criteria. So it could be around knowledge and skills transfer. That could be, for example, to developing countries or to disadvantaged groups, or it could be facilitating the involvement of disadvantaged groups or developing people from developing countries in your meeting. Public awareness raising, there could be a challenge and or a potential solution. And we're not just looking at kind of healthcare. I think every single association can make an impact. Policymakers, so trying to create political change in some way, so making awareness of a policy issue. Educational outreach in the host destination, so that could be through schools or universities. It could also be through the general public, trying to promote behavioral change in the general public, and also advancing or empowering young leaders. So those are really the main kind of categories that we're looking at. So there's 2 grants. One is the Incredible Impacts Grant, which is $20,000 US, and there's a seed fund grant, and we'll hear this for $5,000, and we'll hear more details from our winners. But in short, the $20,000 grant is really for a program that's been, it's finished, it's over. So it's something that's been completed, and they've done their planning and their evaluation. And they're in the submission, you're able to present the results of the program. There have been cases, I think, maybe if you're almost finished, or there's a little bit of flexibility maybe, but in general, it's you're getting recognized for the incredible impact that you've demonstrated. The seed fund grant is really to support associations who are in the early stages of putting together their legacy initiative, and I think it says it in the wording, it's a seed fund. It's to help propel them forward, help them plan, help them get going. As part of the Incredible Impacts program, admission program for the $20,000, it's also important, of course, and we'll talk about this later on, kind of to show how you will spend the grant, because the next stage, you've done the program, and then what are you going to do now? So that's very much part of the submission. Yeah, that's basically it in short.
Great. Thank you. And so we are very delighted today to have Elegast, who won the Incredible Impacts Grant with us, and Gayle, who was part of making sure the International Pamplona Congress won the Incredible Impact Seed Fund Grant. So we've got 2 experts. These are previous winners here who are here to help share. So Elegast, let's start with you. What do you think made your entry stand out?
Well, let me first thank you, because it's truly honored to be here today as a past winner. But what it really stands for us, what the entry stand out was for us, the authenticity of the impact. And so it's, I think that's key in my opinion, because for us, EACD, European Academy Childhood Onset Disabilities, the focus was there, people with childhood onset disabilities. So it was not just a checklist of ideas. It was a lived experience that we shaped into the program. In collaboration with local impact, with the involvement of local stakeholders. What we did there was we had more than 10 actions with 3 large actions. That was a sports festival, was an opening concert, and wasn't at the same time also an experience room where accessibility was the key word, giving accessibility to almost everything, but of course 3 key words were there that was indeed the experience room, or technology, that was opening concert, and the sports festival. But important is the authenticity of it. That's one. And the second part was the fact that we measured it. So it was not only words, no, we translated that in actions and we measured that. So how we really could measure it was important for us, and measuring that impact was, in my opinion, really important one.
Love it. Authenticity, measurement. Great takeaways. I would point out, before I gave the same question to Gayle, one thing that I think is also really important for an entry to stand out. Elegast worked very hand in hand with Visit Flanders, and I think Milo is actually on the call with us today. It's really important for a successful legacy and impact project to show that partnership, as Dermot said off the top. And so Gayle is here, and she's here talking about it, but she's actually representing the Edinburgh International Conference Center. So I think it's really a great example of whether it's a destination or a venue, or but people are partnering together. So Gayle, what made your entry stand out, do you think, for the Seed Fund grant?
Yeah, a lot of the stuff actually that's already been said. I think collaboration is so important. As an industry, we talk lots about impact and legacy, and obviously there's quite often a challenge of who's that responsibility lie with? Is it the association? Is it with the local hosts? Is it the destination? And actually, I think it needs to be a team effort across all the stakeholders, because and a lot of this is additional to everybody's job that they're already doing. A lot of academics can already feel quite overwhelmed of the responsibility of taking on a conference. And then on top of that, they're saying, okay, and then you have to do the legacy bit. And for that, so that's where I feel very strongly as a venue and as a destination, we need to support our clients. And that was one of the reasons I actually sat on we set up a legacy committee for the conference, and I was part of that committee throughout. So that was made up of 4 local academics who were the local hosts, and we're from 4 different universities across Scotland, and myself and the society also sat on that group as well. So I think collaboration was really key, and we were clear from our application that this was going to be a team effort. Other points I've got, I think, having clear objectives. So we focused on we picked 3 key challenges. One of them is in the last 5 years, vaccination rates. So papillomavirus, for those not aware, is related to the HPV vaccination. So although Scotland does have good vaccination rates, in the last 5 years, they have declined. Some of this to do with COVID, but there's other parts there. So we looked at wanting to raise awareness of HPV and also addressing knowledge gaps, and especially at more at-risk populations, which tend to be more socio-economic challenged areas on that. We looked at where the vaccination numbers were lower. So in schools in Edinburgh, tend to be more again in socially deprived areas. For that, the decline in rates, and that's where they got lower rates. So we wanted to focus on S1 and S2 students, which start in secondary school in Scotland, so ones that were due to get their vaccination. So it was very targeted, what we wanted to do there. We also wanted to address Edinburgh is a university city. We've got 4 universities, lots of international students. Lots of countries, particularly sort of Asian and African countries, you may not be entitled to your HPV. So we wanted to address, again, directly to international students to make them aware, so the actual impact goes beyond just Edinburgh and further in their home countries as well. And then also our other objective was about fostering public engagement as well, and had a number of activities for that. And then also, as Elegast said as well, we had a plan on how we were going to measure the impact, because I think that can be really challenging. How do you do this? And especially over what length of time do you do it? So we have Edinburgh have an initiative called BEST, which is Business Events Shaping Tomorrow. And it actually aligns with the UN SDGs, similar also to the application as well. So we could pick which of the UN SDGs we most aligned with, and we went with good health and well-being, quality education, reduced inequality for that. So what we now do is we're going through an application process where we have submitted our results, and that will be independently reviewed by an academic at Napier University in Edinburgh, and then we'll be awarded gold, silver or bronze based on what our impact has been for that. So I think it was clear that we had all steps, we had our objectives, we had a plan of how we were going to achieve it and how we were going to measure it afterwards.
Yeah, and your plan, like some of your objectives, were measurable things. So you made your life easy by making sure that you thought about the whole process, which is really important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great.
And we had the stats on what the numbers of vaccinations were in set schools. So we went in and did education sessions, and we're now getting the data in on the increase in numbers, which is incredible.
Well, it's amazing. Congratulations. So Elegast, I'll ask you the next question. And I mean, apart from the $20,000, which I'm sure can be helpful and used for all future things, but talk to us a little bit about how winning this award has benefited your association, perhaps in other ways.
Well, in the first place, it validated the hard work of our team and our partners, because it's, as mentioned before, it's teamwork. It's collaboration with so many partners, local partners, also the different partners, stakeholders in the field. For us, that was, of course, a side of the academic field, also clinicians, but also industrial partners. And of course, the people with lived experience themselves, their families, their peers. So from that point of view, it inspired also others within our network, not only local network, but also international network, to raise that bar on impact. And that's really important. So not only for our EACD organization, so the European Academy, but also for the American Academy, also for the Australasian Academy, and even for the International Alliance of Academies. So thanks to that, thanks to that winning that award, it was validating the hard work, but it was also inspiring the others to raise that bar. And of course, the practical side is, of course, this $20,000 will be used, of course. We will use that momentum, that ongoing momentum, not only here in our local community in Belgium, where the ECD Bruges conferences was, and the ECD Plus was a kind of pilot of our association. So we will proceed that. We will further invest in activities like indeed a sports festival, but CP football. Also, we organize a hackathon, a campaign that brings indeed the real faces and stories of people with lived experience to the forefront. So from that point of view, it's really helpful. And on the other hand, the impact programs that we started as a pilot will now will be brought to, or is now already new standard part of the future conference planning organizations within ECD, but also to scale up to other organizations, associations in our field. So meaning, for example, now in 2025, it's partly there already in Heidelberg, but also in Galway and beyond in Athens, and probably also the other conferences. So it's part of our DNA, because it's how to use a conference as a leverage to make sure that you create impact is not only a kind of tick the box. No, it's part of the bid book. They should prove themselves how they will do that. And of course, we will help them with that. But winning this award is creating that awareness, the side of that validation, but creating that awareness and making sure that it's embedded within the organization EACD.
Love it. And Elegast colleague Hazel, who is in charge of the Galway conference, joined us at Best Cities and ICCA for a masterclass in association impact that we put on in Dublin a couple of months ago. So really nice to see that continuation with the association. It's really great. What about you, Gayle? How have you seen? Again, you're at the Edinburgh Conference Center, but I'm sure you keep in touch with the folks from IPV. How have you seen the association benefit from winning the award?
Yeah, we're still very much in touch. In fact, we were very much important as well that the legacy work didn't stop as soon as the conference finished. So we're still running education sessions. So we still have regular catches up. But I think it's built on that momentum. And I would say the society are actually really excited about seeing the results of what's happening in Edinburgh, and is now the legacy part is much more further up the priorities. It always had been, to be fair, the society had always wanted legacy to be a focus of the conference, but for a number of different factors, it just hadn't materialised, partly to do with people's capacity, but also a lack of funding, because we all know the association model, self-funding conferences, there's not that additional budget to do the additional activities. So the $5,000, although may not seem a huge amount of money, gave us a really strong, good base to actually start and do those actions for that. And the committee were really keen on that. Even just able to do pop-up banners that had a QR code that took people to advice on where to get the vaccination. Just simple things like that don't cost a lot of money, but there just was no money for that from the conference budget. And I say the society, I think they want to build on the success of Edinburgh. The next conference in the series will be in Bangkok. And one of the legacy committee members is on the organising committee for that. So she's really pushing to keep building on the momentum. And we've submitted a full report of everything, all our actions, what we did, how we did it, how the society supported us, how the PCO supported us, so they can keep going with that. And yeah, we are now starting getting the recognition from the work we did as well. So delighted we found out yesterday we've been shortlisted for the Association Excellence Awards, which will be in Brussels in a couple of weeks' time. So it's great for the committee as well to get that recognition of the hard work there.
100%. Yeah, that momentum I think is invaluable. Just winning that award, like you both said, it's incredible. So Elegast, if you had to give one piece of advice for future applicants, or two, if there's more than one, but if you some prime piece of advice, things that you may not have said yet, is there anything you would say to the folks on the call about being an applicant, things they should think about? Or
well, I have one main and a lot of others. So I will start with the main one. To create impact is start from the heart. So how to create that? Start from the heart. Just don't try to fit within and template. But of course, when you start there and in structured planning, and luckily we had very strong partners, and Milo is also here with Visit Flanders. But of course, start from the heart and then start with a strong structure. We did that with a task force, and then based on that, we created a clear vision. Based on that clear vision, we made a plan, a realistic plan with a realistic timeline. Also make choices, because not everything is possible. And also find the right team, because you really want to deliver. You really want to create milestones. Finding the right team, and that team can change. That team can change over that preparation, or that 1.5 years or 2 years time you needed to create that impact towards, or during, or just before, after the conference. But that right team is really important, and of course also budget. Aside from team, because if you want to cook, it costs money. Finding the budget, calculate that in a realistic way, is also a really important one. But again, most of all, start from the heart. Don't be afraid to be bold, because of course this is something not, I would say, not for perfectionists. It's more for visionaries, and also this award is there to support that from that point of view. So yeah, this is the main thing I really wanted to share with you as fast takeaways.
I love it. I love the way you put that. Gayle, what would you say? What advice would you give? And maybe think about it just a little bit from the perspective of venues or DMOs that are on the call that are thinking about working with their clients. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, I'd say support them. I think platforms have almost like a unique platform to make a difference. And so it's not just within the conference walls. We've got all these industry experts, whatever the field is, coming to your city. Enhance that and embrace it and support them to what they want to do to actually make a difference. We are seeing huge numbers difference. We're seeing vaccination rates in some schools going from 40 to 60% year on year. And that's actually been really emotional to see, because I feel for years I've talked as an industry saying what conferences can do and legacy and impact, and to actually see those tangible, clear results. So I would say, yeah, have clear objectives, what you want to do, put a strong plan in place, and how you're going to achieve it, and also where the money is going to go and how you're going to report on those results.
So for those that are not familiar with the International Water Resources Association, IWRA, we are a truly multidisciplinary, multisectoral member-based association that has more than 5,000 members from all around the world, including academics, scientists, policy practitioners, students, organizations, institutions, ministries, other NGOs or entities from civil society. And what we do is we bring them together to share that knowledge, generate more research, collaborate, partner, and network in order for the sustainable use and management of the water resources all around the globe. And what it's interesting about IWRA is that we don't only aim for the science world to communicate the policy arena, but also we want to have a real impact on the ground. So we really work at the science policy practice interface. Now, how do we do that? We do it through 3 or 4 main pillars. The first one is publications. So we publish our scientific policy journal. Some of you may be familiar with it. It's called Water International. We have 8 issues per year. We also produce policy briefs, as well as special issues in books, among others. That's the first pillar, publications. The second pillar is projects. So we do work around projects on smart water cities with K-Water. It's a public-private company in Korea. We also have another project with the Ministry of Water Resources in China. It's about the status or the development of water resources around the world and trying to figure out key trends and future pathways of these resources. And then we have another one that we also publish water security issues with the Category 2 Center of UNESCO. So apart from publications, projects, We do have partnerships, so we sign MOUs, MOAs with different ministries, again, other water organizations such as the World Water Council, the Asian Water Council. We work hand in hand with UN Water, UNESCO, FAO, all the usual suspects. And then the fourth pillar are events. So we do organize every 2 years what it's called the World Water Congress. The last edition was in Beijing in 2023, and the next one will be this year in Morocco from the 1st to the 5th of December in Marrakesh. So what we do there is we bring researchers, we bring and policy practitioners to really share their knowledge again, collaborate, generate more opportunities for collaboration. And as you can expect, we have a wide audience, including the youth. And back in 2021, what we did is we launched the World Water Envoys program. So this is bringing the youth voices from different corners around the world to showcase their local water challenges, and then inform or showcase this during the opening ceremony of our Congress during the first day on the Monday, and have a voice and a real seat in the scene with distinguished speakers, with high-level representatives. Then during the week, we make them join workshops with experts on water management and their different sectors or areas, such as you are seeing on the screen, on water supply, water and sanitation, urban river management in urban settings, or if not, water quality and groundwater. And then at the end of the Congress, we ask them to report back during the closing ceremony, what is it that they've learned during the whole week? And so they could take back home, or to the local communities, the learnings and the responses to tackle those water challenges. And here in this slide, what you're seeing is the testimonials as to how this program benefited their local communities and the real impact that they saw. So with that, I'll stop here, Nigel, and I'll hear for other questions, okay?
Thanks, Ignacio. So if any in the group have any specific questions, just pop them in the chat box and then we'll handle those in the Q&A section later. But I wanted to ask you a couple of questions, Ignacio. And the first of which is, what do you think made your entry stand out?
I think it's what really stand out was in terms of this program is that we really leveraged the youth voice again during our congresses and for the association. It's rare that the youth representatives, by youth I mean early career and young professionals, okay? So not necessarily from 18 to 35 years old. It's rare that they have some representation during the plenary sessions at the opening or closing ceremonies, that they are heard and that they are really heard. So I think that was something really worth highlighting, or is worth highlighting. Also is that we brought youth representatives from very remote areas. I'm talking about Zimbabwe, Nepal, Palestine, with real water challenges. I live in a developed country in Spain. I'm joining from Bilbao. And of course, we do have water challenges, but I can guarantee this is these people are facing water challenges at another level and in a different scale. So hearing those stories, hearing how we could help them, and adding our little support, let's say, to their cause was something really meaningful. Trying again to what I was saying a few minutes earlier, trying to bridge the science, policy, practice interface. So how can real scientists or academics can inform policymakers, decision makers, to have a real impact on the ground. And those people also reporting back to the local authorities, decision makers, and these people also telling science, this is what we need more research on or more knowledge about. So it was a two-way communication with a real impact on the ground.
Thanks. And how has winning the Incredible Impacts Award benefited your association?
So it truly provided more recognition to the association. This was the first cohort of envoys, and we've launched since then. Since in Korea in 2021, we've launched it two other times. So in Beijing in 2023, and now we're interviewing the next envoys for Morocco. So we saw really a lot of interest from the youth community for the association or in the association. And we've doubled or tripled our the applications. So the interest was really high. These people also, or these the envoys, they've joined the Early Career and Young Professional Task Force. They also co-published different articles also in Water International with senior experts. So it was not just about the Congress. So we tried really to go beyond the Congress, and we also pair them with mentors. So the association also benefited from them, not just them from us. So again, it's a long-lasting relationship also within the community, and we continue to be in touch. And wherever we go, the water family, it's very small. Wherever we go, they are also truly ambassadors and envoys of the association. So they are really spreading the word, and are saying what the association can do for others and their experience.
That's great to hear, to see it continuing and more envoys coming on board. So great to hear that we had a small contribution to that as well in terms of the program and getting that message out to the wider world. Finally, do you have any advice that you can give future applicants in terms of, preparing for the program, their entries, and any insider tips?
Yep. I think that's a good question. I remember it was 3 or 4 years ago, for me at least, when I was preparing the application for IWA. I think I don't. Maybe this is a personal touch or a way of being. I don't tend to procrastinate, so I always try to send things on time and early on time actually. So if you can submit early, to me that's you have an advantage, because the judges or the panel, they have more time to review, and they will start looking with less pressure on their side. So to me, the earlier the better, and I think that was something that helps, or that helped me. Also, try to be precise and try to answer the questions. Don't go too broad. Go to the point, and use real examples. That's the best answer you can do or you can provide. And then, in my case, it was all about actually emphasizing the impact, so the real impact for change that this program had for the association, and how BestCities and ICCA, through this award, could help us on expanding this impact on local communities for youth. For the youth, you can imagine the sort of problems growing up you can have in Zimbabwe, Nepal, or Palestine again. And of course, we had other people from Dominican Republic and India. Okay, so I would, again, submit early, be precise, and focus on impact.
Thanks. That sort of echoes some of the do's and don'ts that we will cover on later. So yeah, it's good that we're aligned there. Thanks a lot, Ignacio. So we'll move on now to Anouk. Anouk was last year's seed grant winner. So Anouk, would you be able to tell us a little bit more about your program?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So our medical association, our mission is to advance cartilage science worldwide. We have several educational events. We have a World Congress, summit, focus meeting, surgical skills course, lab skills course. Yeah. The association has been a bit lacking in their DEI efforts. And while we still have some fellowship and scholarship programs in place, they were never really geared towards doctors or scientists in lower income countries. So we had this in our head, or us at the office, I would say, that we would like to create a program allowing people from underrepresented regions to attend our educational events that happen mostly in Europe and North America, and of course with prices that are a bit deeper for people from lower income regions to attend. So our program is that we would sponsor 2 doctors or scientists to attend future educational meetings of the ICCA, providing free registration, travel, accommodation, also giving them a 2-year membership and inviting them to the networking and social events that would take place at these educational events. So I'm happy to report that the first person was granted this spot. It was in Doha last January. He came to the surgical skills course and from the Philippines, and he's been so happy that he got this chance. It was incredible. It made us really happy to, it's all about this. When we can work at the end of the day, say you have something good going there. And the second grantee will come to Utrecht in 2 weeks for the lab skills course. So we've been active, and thanks to you guys, we made this possible.
Great. Thanks for sharing a bit more on the on your program. And in terms of the first question, what made your entry stand out? I think I can answer that on your behalf as we were going through your submission. I think one thing is, I mean, there's a lot of other associations that, have these types of programs that support underrepresented regions to attend conferences and such. But I think one thing that we, being BestCities and ICCA, found interesting about your application is that you also then plan to track the people that have been awarded to attend these events, track them moving forward to see what sort of impact that has had by attending that course and then going back to their countries again. Could you explain a bit more on how you plan on doing that?
So we're in constant exchange with them. Like Melanio Acosta, once he went back, he's been sending us reports on how things are going. We try also with all, it's kind of the next gen also. So we have our leadership, they take an active interest in all our young doctors, especially now that we have the Global Access Fellows. They're in the pool of all our young aspiring talents, and it's the networking. I mean, they have this contact to world-class faculty. He will come to the World Congress in Boston. He will be invited to the Next Gen reception. Our leadership is also organizing now a Next Gen retreat where they are invited to join as well. So it's really it's kind of a nest where we take them under our wings and we keep on supporting them and yeah.
Great,
That's
thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how has winning the grant benefited the association?
So this is really interesting because we have a foundation, and our foundation has been like dormant for years. And now, since we won the seed grant, the foundation has taken interest and has said that they want to continue offering these kind of scholarships and fellowships to underrepresented regions. So for us, that's one of the biggest points, that we managed to turn the foundation around and awaken it. And provides new possibilities for doctors and scientists from underrepresented regions.
That's fantastic to hear. And what advice would you give others that are considering putting an entry into the seed grants, because you obviously won the seed grant last year? Any tips?
If you have this idea in your head, just play around with it. Get your plan and have a compelling storyline, and then make your entry. And as Ignacio said before, be concise, precise, be on time, answer the questions as well as you can, and just go with it.
Perfect advice. Thank you so much, both of you. And we'll have a chance to ask Elegast and Gayle questions at the end. Now, of course, there's the project itself, but then again, the point also of this call is like, how do we apply for the grant? We take all of these inspirational thoughts and, all of this heart and all of this soul and authenticity, and then put it into a document that is going to win the heart and souls of the judges and hopefully win you an award. So how do you distill all of that passion down into a submission for a nomination to win this award? So I'm going to hand it over to Dermot to tell you a few things about what we've learned over the years from our judges about what you should be doing in your submission.
Thanks, Loren. I'm going to do the do's, and Lauren's going to do the don'ts. So my part is more positive in some ways. But first of all, thanks to our winners again, because I think you've answered, actually, we could almost move to the next slide, because you've answered just about everything we're going to kind of talk about. There's a very structured process for applying. So, there's some questions, so it's quite easy to apply. You answer specific questions in the application process. There's 2 stages. There's a first round and a second round, and the first round is more, you could say, basic information. There's more detailed information required in the second round. So the first point is really about impact first. So I think the key word here is intentional, showing that your impact is intentional. So you've thought really carefully about the impact that you want to achieve. So it didn't just happen. And a way of doing this is obviously looking at the mission of your society, looking at your event objectives, and how can the impact you're trying to create support your society's mission and your event objectives. And this alignment is really kind of the sweet spot. I think also in terms of impact, sometimes there's impact that you don't actually know is going to happen, and that's a really extra, like you plan at the beginning that this is going to be your impact, but then you find that there's other things that you didn't realize that were going to happen that did happen. So the first thing is really just making it intentional, really think about what you want to achieve and then build the project around that, rather than building a project and, saying we're going to do this and then the impact comes at the end. Second point is to tell a compelling story. We all like a good story. It's the best way to reach people. So it's about the why and the who and the how. So I think that's very important. Data and evidence. Both Gayle and Elegast touched on this. You need to show that you've measured it, that you can show your impact in some way, prove your impact. It's not really prescriptive how you do this, because sometimes when you get questions, there's not a prescriptive way to do this. Obviously, classic qualitative and quantitative research. So qualitative people could be testimonials. Quantitative, it could be, how many people participated, what was the outcome, and then we move on, and Gayle touched on this, kind of like changing behaviors and changing hearts and minds, etc. But the key thing is at the very beginning of the process, during the planning process, and Elegast touched on this as well, a well-structured project, think, how are we going to do this? Who are we going to ask? When are we going to ask them? How are we going to gather this information, etc.? And I think as was mentioned, it is often very difficult. It can be challenging, but you know, everybody brings what they can to the table. You just need to show that you've really planned on measuring it. So highlighting innovation. So what makes your initiative unique? So impacts can also be small. So I think this is important. Incredible impact can also be small, but it can be powerful and it can be creative. So this isn't something for really just for big associations. I think every association can have an impact. So obviously something that's creative or unique, something that helps your project stands out, that people look at it and go, this is kind of interesting. This is a new way of looking at it. That obviously helps you. And the final point is about making it clear and concise. So it's really just about getting to the point. Obviously, you know, there's certain information you want to communicate, or judges are past winners and they're all very, very busy people. So it's also putting yourself in the shoes of the judges that, you know, don't go too broad. Make sure you're focused in the information you're presenting. It's quality, not quantity. And I think those are all the points for do's. Back to you, Loren.
Thanks, Dermot. And most of the don'ts are just the polar opposites of the do's,
Yeah.
just to reinforce. But, you know, don't be too vague. You know, we do want to see specific details. It's nice to have big pie in the sky ideas, but then just show how that actualized and how that materialized on the ground is really important, or will in the case of a seed grant. Don't forget the why. You know, again, we want to see the purpose and the outcome. Why are you doing what you're doing? And, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be tied to the DNA of the actual association. Sometimes, most of the time it is, but it isn't always. Like sometimes people take on an impact project because of a specific idea or outcome that they want to see. So why are you doing it? And define the immediate, medium, and long-term impacts. And again, can't emphasize enough those plans for measurement. That's a really key aspect, is to be able to see that. And don't ignore the storytelling. Dermot said it in the tell the compelling story. Make it engaging, make it memorable. I think, I don't know about you all on the call, but when Gayle and Elegast were talking about their things, I kind of got tingly. Like you can feel the passion. You can feel, you know, that authentic joy in actually telling the story about how it works. So don't forget that. It's really important. And then don't miss the deadline. Don't leave it to the last minute, because then you're going to be scrambling and you may not have as strong as a case as you want. So try and work on it before the deadline. Which brings me to the deadline. So timeline for the incredible impacts. Submission for both is the 2nd of June this year. So it seems like it's a long way off, but it's not. It's going to come up. We're just a few months away. We will then announce the shortlist on the 6th of June. The second round submission, which asks for a bit more detail. So that's an important distinction to make. If you're wondering, oh, how much work is this? You know, that first round, we ask for some basic information to get you past the first round. So there's no reason not to at least do that. And then if you get into the short list, you will get elevated to do a little bit more, asked to do a little bit more. And there's no set number or quantity that goes from the short to the second list. It's just which ones hit the mark on what was asked on the application. So last year, for example, I believe we had 20 or 21 initial submissions, and 14 made the short list. But that's not defined numbers. It just depends on who hit all that mark. So once those second round submissions come in on the 20th of June, we then go to the finalists, and our judges work really hard to get down to those finalists. And that's where it really matters, because whether it's 14, 10, 9, whatever that short list is of the second round, we have to whittle it down to 3. Only the top 3 make it into the finals. Those 3 finalists we're aiming to tell them, of course, by mid-August, and then they'll have a couple of months to prepare their presentation. And all 3 of those finalists will be joining us in Porto on stage in front of a live audience of people attending the ICCA Congress in Porto to make their case. So up until the top 3, the judges are in fact made up of past judges, folks from ICCA, folks from BestCities, but really it's a group think of people closely tied to the program. Once we get to the top 3, the tables turn a little bit, and it's everybody in the audience that live votes to see who makes that. So we didn't go into too much of it in this, but I will just tell you those top 3, you have 2 months to prepare your presentation. Dermot and I will do a dry run for all of you before you even get on the plane to Porto to make sure you're covering all your bases. We want it to be a fair fight, and that those 3 really have all their things ready to go in terms of making that pitch. And I can tell you, last year when Elegast won, grant was amazing. All 3 of the final nominees were incredible. For the seed grant announcement, seed fund grant, it is just done by the judges. There is no live presentation for that. But we will make that announcement, of course, at the ICCA Congress that they won the seed grant, but there's no live component for the seed grant. So yeah, that's the session. It's going to come quick. It always does. So please, all of you who are thinking about, if you're an association, please apply sooner rather than later. If you're a venue or a DMO, find a client, work with a client, get them excited about this, and make the submission for them. So now I think we're at Ask Anything. Does anybody have any questions? Feel free to put your hand up and see. And Dermot, I'll ask your help with this just because I can only see my screen. But if we can,
or you can put your question in the chat if you want as well.
Sure.
That's also, yeah.
Give people a minute there. And if we covered everything so brilliantly, that's okay too. And I see a raised hand, which I like. There we go. Marit.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Marit, and I'm from the International Pharmaceutical Federation. I just want to ask, would you be sharing like the application form and the documents and the criteria maybe with all of us that signed up for the session? Or should we go to your website and access everything there?
You can just go to our website and access everything there. It's all there. That's the easiest way to do it. Just go. You can access it through us or through ICCA, and you'll see the Incredible Impacts website. We actually have a dedicated website which has all the application information there. But if you have any problems, of course, just reach out to us. Any other questions? One question that came up on the earlier session, which I think is worth sharing because I found it kind of interesting, is that somebody asked whether they could use AI. And you know, if English is not your first language and it might be easier for you to put some content together and use AI in ways that can benefit you in terms of the presentation, we have no problem with that. It's not we're not going to accuse you of not writing it freehand. I mean, I think any tool out there that helps you put together a good, succinct nomination, I think is okay. Any other questions?
Some in the box. Dermot, you're on mute.
You think I would have learned it by this stage. Can someone apply for the seed fund and still apply for the legacy fund in the future? So this is a good question from Nina.
It's a great question, and the answer is absolutely. Yeah. We did start, if you applied 1 year in one, there's no point. We don't second do the winners, but it's a different process and it's a different stage in the process in terms of the seed grant to the regular one. So yes, you can.
Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry,
Sam, go on.
Sorry, can I just, sorry, I missed the first half hour because I had it in the email at 6 o'clock Central European time. So I've missed most of it, unfortunately. But I just wanted to get clarity. I think it's a similar question around the seed fund versus the actual impact program. So the seed fund is, if we're, say, for example, working with a Congress, whereas this is the first time that they've done something like this, then the seed fund would, because it's for Congress, it's coming up, but at the end of June as an example, but the legacy will continue. A lot of what they're doing, one particular project that this could relate to is carrying on afterwards. So is this something where this seed fund could be used for? Is that the sort of intention behind it? Again, sorry, I've missed most of the call.
No. Yeah, think of the seed fund as this. It's, you haven't done it, but you want to do it. It's helping you get it off the ground. The legacy one is you've done it.
Right. Okay. That makes then that makes more sense. Yeah. Then that's fine. So that would apply to someone that's potentially launching one part of the project at their Congress this year. They could then use that to help fund that as they go through the process, sort of this going to next year. So
correct.
Yeah. Correct. Amazing. Thank you so much. Sorry.
And that was connected to the previous question, I think, as well, that you could win technically the seed fund,
so
but
they
also
could then
apply
do that
the next year if you wanted to, which hasn't happened, but it could happen. So Belle had a question. Thanks, Samantha. Do the two that don't win the Legacy Award receive seed funding or runner-up amounts?
No, unfortunately, no. There's no runner-up, and it is, as we just discussed, it's sort of two different ideas, right?
Yeah.
One is you're helping get something off the ground. The other is we've done this. We want to use this $20,000 to then take it to the next level, but it's already something that we've accomplished. And there is no runner-up. I will say for the main grant, though, the two runners-up, though, get to present their case on stage. They get a trip to the ICCA Congress paid for. So there's still a benefit to the two runner-ups for the main award for sure.
Yeah.
And the validation and the committee and all of the things that Gayle and Elegast talked about. I can tell you, having talked to the two final nominations, the two runners-up to when Elegast won, they both said how incredible it was, even though they didn't win. It was just validating for their committees. It was validating for the association and got them excited to apply for some other awards, which, as Gayle mentioned too, they won. They won some other awards too. So it was a really good exercise for them to go through.
Elegast, did you want to add something?
I want to echo that because indeed, being a finalist is indeed already, we were all winners, and it was giving us that awareness important for our association and our sister associations. So yeah, I absolutely agree with that.
Great.
Good.
Gayle.
I've got a question. So obviously we won the seed fund and we've done lots of work with that, and the conference is going on to Bangkok, but the local committee, obviously we've had incredible outcomes, and the local committee want to keep doing stuff as well. Would it need to be the society that applies for the award to take it of the 20,000 to move on to Bangkok, or could the local committee who are members of the society apply for the 20,000 to continue the work in Edinburgh?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a very good question. It's supposed to be tied to the actual Congress that's happening. So it would be more focused around the Bangkok Congress. Like the idea is it's a legacy impact tied to the Congress. So I would frame it around that.
Just double check.
Yeah. There's a few more questions from Vivian. Is there a time period? This is about the seed fund following on. Is there a time period in which the legacy initiative must be launched?
Yeah, I believe
Which is also a good question.
Yeah, I believe we have it in the rules there, and I want to say it's sort of within the next year. Like the idea is that it's something that you're using. It's not way down the road. We want to see the results of it coming up within the next year.
And another question: if they don't get selected the first time, this is from Nina. If they don't get selected the first time around, can they apply next year?
100%. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Any other questions in the chat? I see lots of. These are all great questions. I love it.
Yeah.
People are engaged and excited. I love it.
Yeah. And there's case studies on the, they can go and see on the Incredible Impacts website. You can see all the previous winners. Case studies about the previous winners are on the Incredible Impacts website. And I know also on the Best Cities Global Alliance website, you also have some impact examples that could be inspiring.
Totally. Yeah, we just did 8 case studies last year that we did, and at least half of them were previous nominees or winners. So they're great ones to read through. I know hip preservation is in there. World Parkinson's is in there. There's a couple of really great ones that have done a good job with the Legacy and Impact Project. So I did have a few.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, another one.
Can I think somebody asked as well for the case study for IPVC. Also, we have one on the EICC Edinburgh International Conference Centre website. There's a full case study on there as well if people want more information on what we did.
Fantastic. Anybody else have a question before I move on to some key takeaways? I love the questions, so we'll keep going if we have them.
I did try to raise my hand. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, I can hear you, Ellen. How are you?
Oh, good. How are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
I'm loving everything that's being presented here today. It's so inspirational. I have a couple of questions regarding so I think what I'm hearing, and I'm not sure if it's because it's some of the questions that are being answered relate to one of the other projects, and I may be blurring the lines a little bit in terms of what. So there was one really great comment, which is that the work that we do, it doesn't necessarily have to be attached to the DNA of the organization, which got me thinking, because we do it's been so lovely to be part of this organization for the last 2 or 3 years and see what work has been carried out, that's being carried out between our congresses, and then that's being carried over and drawn into the Congress itself, regardless of where in the world it's being held. But something else that's beautiful that's been part of the event is not just the global piece, but something that the host country is very passionate about in terms of providing supports to whether it be youth groups or raising funds at the event to support a local cause. And so I'm trying to determine would I include both of those in the application process? Would I speak to the work being done and how we've been able to engage all of our sponsors and sustaining partners and to be part of our initiatives at and in between congresses, as well as the impact that we're making at the location, which isn't attached to our potato DNA, but it is attached to something that the host is passionate about.
Well, I think Ellen, if I'm hearing you right, I think that's fine. As long as there's sort of some strategy and thought to it, and that whatever the local aspect is, again, it doesn't have to be attached to the DNA, but that it's not just a little corporate CSR thing that happens on the side, but there's actually some strategy and thought to that by bringing the Congress there, that this has resulted in these impacts that have lived on. So an example I can give you that when I thought about it, when I said that comment earlier, was there was one year we had a nominee from the European Cataract Society, which obviously is about lots of physicians and your eyes and all of that. But their big legacy impact thing is about sustainability, environmental sustainability. And so they worked into the DNA of their Congress, but not necessarily that that's what they're about, but that they wanted to take on these sustainability green initiatives to a really high level and make impacts on their communities where they bring their conference and choose their conference based on what's going on. So the strategy about the association and the congresses that they did link it up. It's just that they worked in parallel with each other. They weren't necessarily intermeshed, if you know what I mean. So in that same vein, if that helps answer your question, then yes, absolutely. But there should be, as we said, it should be compelling storytelling. There should be a reason why you're doing it. Why is this happening and why are you taking on this particular extra thing?
So would it be safe to, in the initial application, to include both of those impacts, and then would it be the judges that might narrow down to be specific, or
I think I would be just by the basis. I think I would be specific. I think I would choose I would look at it, and if there's not a clear strategy, like if it's two completely separate different things, I would just choose one, just based on what I've seen before for some, because you want it to be clear and concise. You want people to understand the why, and you want it to be a compelling story. And if there's too much in there and there's no connection between the two, I think you may lose some of the judges, would be my advice. I don't know, Dermot, if you agree with that, but.
Sure, yeah. No, I would agree. Yeah. I think also, it's really about long-lasting impact. So, I mean, an impact that stands out. So there are many associations that engage in more short-term CSR activities, which of course add to things, and I would say it's obviously welcome, but what we're really trying to pioneer really is this kind of long-lasting impact that's that's leaving a real impact on the destination in some way, or the people in the destination, or particular groups, etc. Yeah. So
Okay,
it could
really
be, as an
good.
example off the top of my head, it could be that sometimes people say, well, we're organizing a fun run or something, and we're giving the money to charity. Well, maybe if you were a specific charity around health-related charity, and this related in some way, a health-related association, and you could tie it into keeping fit or engaging young people to keep fit. It's thinking it out a little bit more like that, rather than just
the end goal.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's very helpful. Very helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Great. Thanks, Helen. Anybody else have any questions?
So Jeff has asked, did you focus on a single flagship project or a collection? So I think we've already answered that question, Jeffers, in terms of focusing on one program for the for the entry.
Jeffers also asked a question about a good question about what's concise, which is always, as we say, how long is a piece of string sometimes? So it's very difficult to say. I mean, it really depends on the complexity of the project, of course. So it's not, unfortunately, the answer isn't quite clear. It's saying everything you need to say, but in as few words as possible, if that answers your question. So it's like getting the message across.
And I think another thing to add there, Dermot, is the way that the submission is structured. It's a set of questions. So it's actually pretty straightforward in terms of you're answering a list of questions. So those questions are also published on the Incredible Impacts website. So you can just download them and prepare your entry by just going through those questions. And I think Anouk also mentioned this, is just to answer the questions. So that should help in sort of focusing your entry as well. And I think there's a question from Kirsten as well. Can a future Congress be entered as well? One thing there, Kirsten, is you may consider a future event for the seed fund grant because it hasn't taken place yet. So that would be my advice there. And for an event that has taken place where you've actually run a program, it would make sense to go for the main grant. Another one from Grace suggests the association to write the submission or the Convention Bureau on their behalf. It could be either of those. So, for example, the main grant winner from last year was the Early Childhood Disability Association, who worked very closely with the Bureau in Flanders to put together the entry. Another finalist was from Denmark, so they worked very closely with the Copenhagen Convention Bureau in putting together the entry. So there's a lot of synergies there that we would suggest to work together to submit that. Or if you're an ICCA member, you can also submit on behalf of an association. So there's different ways that you can do that, but obviously a convention bureau would be logical, seeing as they would have been, it would have taken place in their destination, and they may have been involved in the program quite intensely. So it also depends on the program itself and how the bureau has supported your program in the destination.
It's true, and it's also, of course, it all depends on the association, whether they've got full-time staff who can support it, or maybe there's, they need more help from the Convention Bureau to actually do the application. So, I think it really depends. Yeah.
And there's also, obviously you have the International Association. In the past, we've also had the local hosts for the event that have submitted an entry. So for example, Down Syndrome International had held their conference in Scotland, but it was the local host. So it was the Scottish association that actually submitted the entry. So that's also another option where your local hosts could submit, as long as it's tied to the international conference, then that's also totally fine.
And I suppose ultimately, Nigel, isn't it? It's just about we want to give the impact project a platform. So whoever submits it,
yes,
the submitter, it's really about, what's actually, the content we want to hear about it. Yeah.
There's also a question from Adrian from Cape Town. Need for supporting material like videos and images, or purely the doc and questions? There is the option to submit additional supporting information, Adrian. It's not a must. Obviously, if you think it will strengthen the entry, then of course we encourage you to do so. But yeah, it's not a must. I think the only thing is if you do reach the finals, obviously there will be some extra preparation required as you'll be presenting to the ICCA Congress. So obviously you'll need to prepare for that presentation during the ICCA Congress. This is a good question in terms of what was the strategy used by previous winners to identify young professionals or youth representatives to be part of the program? What process did you have in terms of identifying those people?
Yep. So maybe I can jump in since our program was based on the youth. So IWA has a very wide network of water practitioners, again, and experts and professionals. So we did reach out to many academics that were working at universities. We also reach out to UNESCO. UNESCO has lots of regional offices, and so they spread the word. We use, of course, social media channels and mailing systems. And also through our early career and young professional task force, we did reach out to them, and they've spread the word through their own channels again. So I think we used a very diverse, and what we tried also to do was going out a little bit of what we call the water box. So we did communicate with other sectors in terms of sustainable development, climate change, et cetera, et cetera.
Thanks. Anouk, do you have anything to add?
We made the call via social media, email blast, website, and then we had like an application process. The doctors and scientists had to send in their application, which was then evaluated by a selection committee. That's how they were picked. Yeah.
Okay. And there's another question here from Jeffers. Challenges during the application process. Anouk and Asher, did you recall any challenges that you had when you were putting together your submission?
Should I go first?
Sure.
So, I mean, your process is very clear. So there is not much you can do wrong. You have to go through it. It's a form. Also, with the text, it tells you that many characters are allowed. So you don't really have that space, at least for the seed grant, to go over it. You have your plan. You have the clear structure. You enter it. There was no challenge for us.
And in terms of how long it took you, Anouk, was it laborious or?
Well, it was kind of, you have the development of the idea, it's already in your head. So that takes a little bit of time. But once you have the opportunity to pitch for it, then you finalize your plan, you talk with your team, and then you go for the entry. And for us, it was pretty straightforward. But that's the seed grant. It's different, I guess, for the big prize. Yeah.
Ignacio, it was a while ago, but do you recall any challenges that you had in terms of submitting an entry?
No, I don't think so. Again, like Anouk was saying, it's pretty straightforward, was pretty straightforward. I think it's still the case. So you really need to focus on what's being asked. So don't go too far from that. For me, I remember there were 2 rounds. So the first round was shorter, and I had to prepare in more details with regards to the second round, because I had to go back to the envoys and ask for testimonials, ask to report back on, after the Congress, how did you see the Congress benefiting your local community, and what was the effect of the responses you brought back home? And so it was a great opportunity for me to reconnect with them and also see how this was really impactful for them. So it took longer. I remember for the first round, it took me maybe half a day, 4 or 5 hours. And for the second, it was more, a day and a half maybe after revision.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Ignacio, for those insights. I'm going through the questions. I think we've covered all the questions now. Are there any more questions from the audience?
Sorry, Nigel, not
Yeah.
from the audience, but from me, and maybe this helps also my association. It may be a hard question, but you don't necessarily need to answer this. But I'm wondering, the new era of the massive use of artificial intelligence, to what extent do you recommend or do you expect the use of artificial intelligence while responding to these questions? And if the applicants should be transparent, naming the source of ChatGPT or other platforms, or what are your takes on that? How will you look at that too? Right, take that into consideration.
In terms of people putting in an entry using AI, you mean?
Yes,
Well,
exactly. And then being transparent about it and informing you, and how much do you recommend to use ChatGPT, or say, be careful, we're asking something different that maybe the artificial intelligence cannot capture.
well, I think because it's very specific in terms of the impact program of the associations, I think we're all using AI in some shape or form at the moment to help us analyze data or help us in our content writing. So I don't necessarily see that as a big issue. Obviously, when you're submitting an entry, it has to be based on facts within the association about the impact program that they're putting forward. So in terms of using AI to make their language better, or there could also be a lot of people that you're submitting an entry and English is not your first language. So obviously AI is a great help in then helping you formalize it better. So I don't see an issue with that. And as long as it's based on the facts and the figures from the actual program itself, if it helps you tell a story, why not? But I don't know, Dermot, do you have any comments on that?
No, I agree totally. I think it's very, but the measurement, how it aligns with your vision, what you want to achieve, the impact. I mean, that's all very factual information. And then how you package it, we're all using AI, and AI, of course, needs to be tweaked. We can't use it too much because you can tell if something's written purely with AI. So I think it's more that if that helps with the delivery, then it's a good thing, I think. But the facts, figures, it will stay the same. Yeah, it's not such a like in that way. It's not a creative project. You're cataloging what you've kind of done or what you plan to do. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a way to check on your work, so to speak, because it has taken place or is to take place. So that's something that we shouldn't be too worried about, I think, in terms of AI.
I'll move on just to some quick takeaways. Just to summarize again, we celebrate intentional impact. Great segue from what Dermot was just saying. Intentional impact. Why are you doing it? Strong applications, compelling story with clear results. June 2nd, super important. More questions, either Dermot, or you can ask myself or my colleague Nigel, who runs the program on behalf. He's in sleep right now because he's in Singapore. But feel free to reach out to Nigel or myself, and I'm just Loren, Loren, at bestcities.net. Yeah, and share this around. We're going to take this session and the earlier session, put them together in so we can get the inputs of all 4 of our different panelists into one recording, and we will have this on our website so that if you want to share this, look at it again, share it with colleagues, potential associations to learn what it's all about, please feel free. We really want to spread the word. I think all of us can agree in today's world, doing something positive with impact through our congresses and conferences and who we are as associations is really more important than ever. So really happy that you all tuned in, and I just want to give an extra big thanks to Gayle and Elegast for sharing their stories and honestly their passion. I could feel it come through the screen, which is so amazing. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Dermot, over to you to close. Anything else you want to say? Did I miss anything?
Just no, you've covered everything. Thank everybody for joining, and we look forward to a flood of applications.
Can I just jump in
Sorry,
one word? I saw that the session was being recorded. Will I have, because I missed obviously Gayle, unless Gayle, I can pick up with you separately afterwards, because as I said, I missed part of it, but is the recording going to be accessible that I can go listen to Gayle's?
Yeah, we're going to take this session and combine it with the earlier one and get all the insights, particularly what Dermot and I said was repeatable. So you'll only see one version of that. But the panelists, we are going to incorporate all of their takeaways. So you'll have that.
Samantha, Samantha, if you want a separate chat,
I might do that.
Sorry,
it's just, I was literally on the call with the potential client that I'm thinking of just before this, and I got my timings all in a slight muddle. So that would be brilliant. But yeah, this was even these last 20 minutes were really helpful.
And we're happy to see you live, of course.
We're very happy to see you live. That's great. Okay, thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day.
Appreciate your engagement.
See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.